This is the podcast Eel Zebra's Transformations. I am the Eel Zebra. The main purpose of this podcast is to continue journaling so that I keep healing. This is not a diary, meaning that my records won't necessarily reflect events in their chronological order, nor do I promise that the details will be accurate. If listening to my processing of traumas helps someone else along the way, I'll take it as having accomplished something for the higher good of all concerned. But now, without further ado, let's start. The check-in bag allowance on the international flights is 50 pounds or 23 kilograms, and carry-on baggage has strict size limitations. I paid extra for a plywood box my brother-in-law made so I could move some of my most precious paintings. One of them depicted my son watching a mermaid in waves. My 11-year-old still believes in mermaids and in Santa. Last Christmas he made a note for Santa that I glued for him to the skylight above his bed so that the generous old man knew what to bring. The list wasn't long. A laptop, a flying backpack so he didn't have to carry so much weight on his shoulders when coming home from school, and a cabin that clones adults so his mom could simultaneously be at home with him and at work. In Latvia, it is normal for kids to walk from school if their parents are working and can pick them up. Therefore, the asks are reasonable. Santa responded, saying that he would drop off the laptop through the chimney of a lady in the US. She lives in the neighborhood where his new home would be. He also explained that the flying backpack wouldn't be needed because he wouldn't have to walk home. Mommy wouldn't need to work, so she would drive him. In reality, I got the flying bag, but I'm not telling anyone about it. It is my secret. I needed it for myself, to pack all my emotional baggage with me. The bag came with the invisibility feature, so it was more than I could dream of. Journal entry dated March 24th, 2025. This morning, during a sudden onset of cough, the same old pain in the right side of my back that had been there in the background for several years grabbed me and made me remember Mara's advice, to be curious and allow the sensations and feelings to speak. I opened the journal to quiet down and listen, and I heard the pain speak. She wants me not to forget her and not to push her to the background. I tune in and allow myself to see what comes up. It's an old conflict between blankness protest and guilt regret. The pain represents guilt. I ask guilt what she wanted me to know. This is what she says. That blankness protest would always stand in front of me, trying to push me into the shadow. She dominates with her statements. Don't give in. There's no need to feel guilty for not missing Latvia. No need to feel guilty for taking care of your kids the way you knew how to. No need to feel guilty for having your own life and not babysitting your grandchildren. They have a wonderful mother, better than you, so all's good. I get that energetic healers say shame and guilt are the lowest vibrations, and I get that blankness protest might be correct or partly correct on those quoted matters, but I also want to be heard because I was created by the Creator. So there was a divine purpose. Therefore, I insist that I am heard and seen by the self. If I had given birth to a daughter, I would have named her Sarah, but I didn't. Yet Sarah's soul wanted to come down from the heavens and live on the earth with me, so I bought her at a flea market. She was placed there because she didn't meet certain pedigree standards. Some of her spots were merging. Sarah was the smallest of the Dalmatian puppies and was lying in the box under the pile of her 11 siblings. When I approached the box, she somehow made it from under the top of that pile and waved her paw for my attention as if asking me to pick her up. The owner of her mom nodded, thus communicating her permission, and next, Sarah and I experienced our first physical contact, even though she didn't know that her name was Sarah yet. I rocked her in my arms until my husband number 2 urged me to go and check out what other vendors were selling. I followed him, but after about an hour or so, I returned to the box. Sarah's siblings were on top of her again, but somehow she felt my presence, got out from under the pile, and made the same pleading gesture. Sometimes the signs from the universe are too clear to be ignored. Her owner asked if I wanted the genealogy papers for extra cash, but I didn't care. To me, she was the most beautiful dog in the world, and I needed no proof. It also never crossed Sarah's mind that she wasn't perfect. She felt loved, and she demanded love. As a puppy, she was naughty and full of energy. As an adult, she had learned to read my every move. She also loved my husband number 2. She barely tolerated number 3, even though he wanted to find a private jet for the connection to the starting point of a transatlantic ocean cruise on Queen Mary 2 that would take us all to the US. That way, the risk to Sarah's life would be minimized. For whatever reason, the plan didn't work out anyway, so we had to fly. I've always felt guilty for putting her through that suffering. I feel guilty for quite a few things regarding Sarah, as I do regarding all my loved ones. The guilt is one of my parts. In his book, No Bad Parts, Dr. Schwartz says no part of us is bad. He explains that parts carry extreme beliefs and emotions in their bodies that drive the way they feel and act. He confirms that parts have bodies that are separate and different from the person's body they are connected to. At least that's how parts talk about themselves. One might talk about fireball in its gut. Another may say that it has a huge weight on its shoulders. Dr. Schwartz calls that weight a part's burden and goes on explaining that parts are not their burdens. However, there is one more thing to emphasize. Parts are not the self either. Quotes from Dr. Richard Schwartz's book, No Bad Parts. My main goal was help my clients form better relationships with their parts. Some of their patterns I keep seeing were similar to what I witnessed as a family therapist. For example, I might say, could you find the one part who's angry at the target part, in this case the critic, and just ask it to step back for a while? To my amazement, most clients say, okay, it did, without much hesitation, and when the part was off to the side like that, my clients would shift into an entirely different state, and then other parts would step in. A fearful part, for example. And the more of them that stepped back to allow the client to speak, the more mindful and curious the client would become. When my clients were in that space, the dialogue would go well. The critic would drop its guard and tell its secret story, and the client would have compassion for it, and we would learn about what it protected, and so on. Client after client, the same mindfully curious, calm, confident, and often even compassionate part would pop up out of the blue, and that part seemed to know how to relate internally in a healing way. And when they were in that state, I'd ask clients, "Now, what part of you is that?" And they'd say, "That's not a part like these others. That's more of myself," or "That's more my core," or "That's who I really am. That's the part I call the self." And after thousands of hours doing this work, I can say with certainty that the self is in everybody. Furthermore, the self cannot be damaged. The self doesn't have to develop, and the self possesses its own wisdom about how to heal internal as well as external relationships. End of quotes. The big moving day is today. I am 43 and full of dreams like the age didn't matter. My soon-to-be husband has bought a house for us, consulting me over the internet. In the pictures, the house looked great. So on the plane, I'm fantasizing how I will decorate it creatively and fill it with my feminine aura. But when I get there, I see that the house is full of stuff. Never in my life have I seen anyone owning so much stuff. I realize I am not the only one with the baggage. Why did I even assume I was? I don't feel welcome because there's no room for me. It takes me 2 months to carve out some space for the contents of my 2 suitcases and Sarah's crate. It's a very different home than my home in Sigulda with the skylights, and a very different world. Very soon I learn how materialistic this world is, and I experience the betrayal I couldn't have predicted. I fall into a deep depression and lay on the couch for weeks, suffering from an excruciating backache. It's the same old one I had after the separation from husband number 2. I recovered toward the end of the summer and tried to cultivate trust in him. I marry him, hoping it was a bad dream. It wasn't, but I sweep it under the rug. My husband feels it and tries to improve the situation. Not the way I hope, though, his own way. He takes me out for a walk, remembering how outdoorsy I used to be in Latvia. We walk across a grassy field on a scorching North Carolina summer day to a forest and then, through it, to a waterfall that he wanted to show me. When we reach it and sit down, he says, "Isn't it beautiful?" That pushes the anger release button within me. No, it isn't. What kind of waterfall is that with no water in it? I hate it. I hate this heat. It has killed all the flowers. What meadow is that with no flowers? This country is ugly, and this forest, it's awful. What fun is it to fight through those thorny vines? Normal forests have soft moss. I hate it here. I hate it. I hate it so much that I want to die. In fact, I'm going to sit here until I die. All right. Let's sit here, my darling, husband number 3 says. No, I'll sit, but you go. I want to sit alone, but you need to go home and feed the dog. No, I'll sit here with you because we are together forever, remember? I don't die on that day. It's because of ticks. They start to crawl up my legs, so I jump up and run home. And then I think and think and probably overthink. But what I come up with is the realization that the ticks were the divine messengers. They were sent from heaven. The message? It wasn't yet my time to go. I still had something important to accomplish. But what? That I can't figure out for a long time. It takes a year or two until it clicks. It's when I hear my friend Pastor preaching. During the sermon, he's telling a story. It is about a poor man who goes down to a lake fishing to get some food. He doesn't have much luck, though, and manages to catch only a couple of tiny fish. Yet, while by the lake, he sees someone a little further down repeatedly catching big, huge fish, only to let them go. Surprised, the poor man walks up to the stranger and asks, "How come you let all the big fish back in the water?" "I only have a 6-inch frying pan," the stranger answers. This story strikes me like a lightning. I must have been blind. I am the guy who catches big fish only to let them go, focusing on my limitations. Other women are complaining about how hard it is to find a husband, while I've managed to find 3 already. No more worries, ladies. I'm here to help. You have the wrong feed on your hooks. I know all about the feeds. I'll become your coach and help you find husbands in no time. But keep in mind, after you marry them, you may have to read Dr. Laura's book titled Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands. I need to pass that baton over to her, since it looks like I haven't been successful to properly keep the 2 of mine. I'm not sure yet how it will go with number 3. I'll stop here, but if you want to know what happens next, tune in to episode 6. You've been listening to the podcast of LZB. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and share it to show me your support and help me grow. If you want to learn more about me, my causes, my products, and my services, please visit my website ilzebe.com. That's ILZEBE.com. Disclaimers. In this podcast, I talk about mental and physical health and what has helped me to heal. Nothing that I say should be regarded as medical advice. If you have any medical condition, consult your doctor. Also, I'm an artist and storyteller. I'm sharing my stories because that's what artistic people do. Take it as fiction and as a form of my art. Even though I may sound as if I'm recalling events from my past, I don't confirm they actually happened. And if they did, I'm not blaming or accusing anyone, nor should you. I take all my life lessons with gratitude, trusting that they are given to me to expand my soul.